Good afternoon, everybody. I think Simon needs a little introduction. You may remember Edward Lloyd opened his coffee shop about 300 years ago, and Simon was around then, and he seems to be still here today. Simon has been in the market for a long time. He started life training as a mechanical engineer in London's Imperial College, and it's probably why he probably understands the risks that we underwrite rather better than most others of his type. He started at Swiss Re. He worked at the Wellington Syndicate for 10 years and has led the property team at Atrium since 2001. I always find everything that Simon tells us about the market to be very insightful. So I hand you over to Simon. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. As James has said, I basically set up the non-marine direct and FAC portfolio at Atrium. At the time, Christine Dandridge was the active underwriter, and she was looking for someone technical because I'm not sure she trusted a lot of the other property underwriters in Lloyd's. And it's always amused me that in Lloyd's, my class of business is defined by what it's not. We're non-marine. It's property, but it's not as good as marine property. It's non-marine property. And, it's the only place in the world where that's how it's described. But a lot has happened over the last 12, 18 months with COVID. And one of the aspects that has significantly affected our business has been working from home. We are probably one of the most transactional divisions within Atrium. We underwrite around 2,000 risks a year. We've got a team of 14 people. And in 2019, 98% of those risks were negotiated face-to-face with brokers in the underwriting room. And I mean, I don't even have a separate office or desk outside of the underwriting room. All my team would used to come in, sit at the box, wait until 11:30, and then the brokers would come in, and then 4:30, the brokers would leave, and we'd carry on sitting at the box. And if you told me back then that actually you need to do all your business remotely, I would have said you couldn't do it. But it turns out we can. And in fact, in 2020, we had our best year ever for the non-marine team. Most income we've ever written. Profit was quite good. Risk count was up. And we employed 2 new people. Both of whom that we interviewed remotely, and we've subsequently employed to cope with the additional workload that we've got. And as I said, I think a big aspect of that is the fact that we are a very well-established syndicate. We have a lot of very good connections with brokers. The brokers know who we are. We also have a very good reputation for empowering underwriters. So me and my underwriters, when we book a call with a broker, by and large, 9 times out of 10, they'll get a quote and an answer right there on the call. And what we're hearing is that's quite different from a lot of the other syndicates because they have, they want to take the information away, they want to discuss it internally, and then then the broker has to schedule another call. Another aspect that we've certainly seen during lockdown is what I would call the verticalization of the market. So, we are big proponents of the subscription market in Lloyd's, and a lot of our business was stuff where it had been led off on a slip. Broker comes around, do you want some of this, Simon? Yes, I do. No, I don't. But in lockdown, it's very much every man on their own slip at their own price. So we, this is my 20th year at Atrium, as James said, and we're very confident in knowing how to price business. And so we're quite happy putting up a price, saying, yes, we'll lead it off for you. And I know some of the other syndicates are struggling a little bit and have struggled a little bit with that, because in a void, if a broker says to them, what price do you think this is? As an underwriter, you can create a number, and if you've made a mistake and you're too cheap, you definitely will get the order. And if you've made a mistake and you're too expensive, you definitely won't get the order. So it only binds your mistakes. And so you've got to have a good track record, good experience, a good team, good systems to be able to manage in that sort of vacuum almost. Because you're not getting the backup of the rest of the room saying that yes, that's the right price, or no, it's not. And
Simon, is it worth just explaining or reminding people the subscription market is obviously where one leader leads off a price and then it's offered round to the rest of the market. A vertical market is where everyone states their different prices, and so you could have what would be the differential in price from top price to bottom price that you've seen?
2 or 3 times, 250%.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry.
And it'd be very helpful to actually can you give us an idea of volumes in 2019 written by the property team and 20 and 21 projected?
I mean, this is well, I can maybe share this slide with you actually, which is has got some of this information. Hopefully you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what this is showing is blue bars is our income, and the red lines are what Lloyd's calls the RARC, the risk-adjusted rate change. So it's the pure rate change year on year that my portfolio has experienced. We have to capture this, the rate change. It's the price change, essentially, difference per risk. We have to report it to Lloyd's, and this is the summation of that. What this basically says is that, I mean, our 2021 projected income, this number, is going to be about 65 million quid. It might be slightly more than that. And, we're already double what we were writing in 2017.
And Simon, is it worth just clarifying that the dip for 2021 is not a rate reduction, it's just a reduced rate of increase?
Exactly, it's a reduced rate of increase. So we're seeing, for 2021, we're seeing about a plus 10% on renewals. For 2020, we were seeing just over plus 15. But what this chart shows is that when the market was soft and the rates were reducing, so -5 each year, -10, we were shrinking our income. And then as the market's hardening, we were growing our income, which is exactly what I want to see. We're basically writing more of the better business and less of the worse business. And as I said, we've more than doubled the income that we used to write in 2017. We've taken on 2 new underwriters. Right, let me just get rid of that because I don't think we need any more of that. One of the other aspects that we, so the focus, I mean, last year, 2020, for the property was definitely the height of the hard market, where it was very difficult for brokers to finalize their placements. They just couldn't find enough underwriting capacity to finish their placements 100%. And as a result of that, what we had on multiple occasions were we put a price and a line size, and the brokers would come back and say, "We need more capacity from the same." And so we would charge them more money for giving them the more capacity. And that's one of the reasons for the growth in the income. And I'm quite fine with that because the results have been very good. You know, and like I said, I'm confident of the pricing. In 2021, we've definitely seen a slowing of that rate change. It's still a positive market, but whereas we were seeing a range of price changes, you know, +10 to +20 to +30 last year, we're seeing a smaller range now, from sort of +5 up to maybe +15, with the average so far has been about +10. But I mean, looking at the historic results we've had in 2020 and how that's developing, you know, I'm confident that the pricing is correct. So we're quite happy with that. And the underwriting systems that Atrium have produced for us, we have these virtual booking systems where brokers can access the live calendars of the underwriters and book a slot. So it's no intervention from us. And so most days, I and most of my underwriters have a full week of broking slots booked. And the advantage of that over the face-to-face broking that we experience in the room is that we can vet them. So typically we will get the brokers to send us the submission beforehand. We'll have a quick look at it and say, yes, this is going to work. You know, it's the right sort of occupancy. Your target pricing sounds about right. Let's have a half-hour broke to discuss the aspects and what you want me to do. And like I said, 9 times out of 10 after that broke, he'll get a quote, which if it becomes an order, we then bind electronically. The point about that is that I can look at my calendar for tomorrow and say, yeah, that's probably $300,000 or $400,000 of premium there. Whereas when I was in the room with a queue of brokers, which I had almost all the time, I had no idea what was in the queue generally. And, you know, there always would be people that actually I thought, I'm not sure, whatever you've got, I don't think I want to write it, or it's going to be too cheap, you know, because, you know, you do most of your business with your repeat customers. And that's certainly the case for us, that we are prioritizing our repeat customers. And the brokers that haven't given us an order all year, they just don't get a look in. I mean, I understand that throws up a lot of questions because it's certainly an advantage for us being an established Lloyd's syndicate with a big team. We can give a quick result to the brokers. It's also an advantage to the established brokers who know us or know me, know what I like, know what I want to underwrite. But it's definitely a hindrance to the newer syndicates and the newer brokers because they don't have that traction. You know, if someone calls me up and says, you know, we're a new broker, we want you to write this, and it's invariably, it's not a particularly good piece of business. But, you know, we're taking advantage of that, frankly. And it's certainly one of the success stories of Atrium is that we've been able to operate very effectively during lockdown. And in fact, 2021, I think our income is up about 20-25% above 2020. 2022, harder to predict as ever in the DNF space. A lot of it is down to what the US hurricane season throws at us. You know, it's forecast to be a bad season, but what does that mean? You know, it just depends where the hurricanes hit. Last year, there were quite a few landfalling US hurricanes, which we by and large escaped. But I wonder whether the impact of COVID, which was certainly in terms of premium volume, was less than we expected. We forecast quite a significant drop in income because we expected all our clients to be losing money, their business interruption to be reduced, and therefore the premiums that they spent reduced. Didn't really see that.
Simon, how does I think, unlike many underwriters, you're not as US focused as some. How do you split between US and non-US?
That's correct. I'm about 35% US, 65% rest of the world, and
which is almost the opposite to a lot of your peers, isn't it?
Most of my peers, and I sit on one of the LMA underwriter committees, is completely the opposite. In fact, most of them are about 80% US, 20% international. But it's certainly how I like the book, and it's certainly one of the strengths of the book because it's very well spread. You know, we do have exposures in Japan and Chile and New Zealand, and we do pay claims when the earth shakes in those places. But you know, we haven't put all our money on black, you know, in the US, and then you're very dependent on major US hurricane not happening or major US earthquake not happening. So that is certainly something, you know, and we're in the market certainly recognized as one of the leaders for international property. We still have exposures in the US, but it's not my main exposures.
And current rating, where if in a normal year on today's rating, what would you expect your loss ratio to be? Normal, yeah.
Well, I think the only years that we've lost money are 2017 and 2005, and that was because of the major hurricanes, so Hurricane Katrina and the Harvey, Irma, and Maria hurricanes in 2017. I mean, it's usually less than 65%. You know, it's we as I said, the portfolio has been deliberately built up to be very well spread. You know, in terms of the income, you know, let's say we're going to write $65 million pounds of income, give or take, about $90 million. But my maximum line is $20 million. My average line is about $4 million. So, you know, I can afford to pay several total losses if it's only a $4.5 million hit, and still make a decent profit. And that's the portfolio history shows that. You know, I get shown portfolios occasionally where it's the other way around. You know, they're writing $20 million of income, but they've got a $50 million line, and then you can blow your whole account, which is one line. My portfolio is nothing like that, and it's the reason why we're so transactional. That you know, one of the ways we spread the risk is by writing lots of business, but we don't write huge lines on all that business. Definitely one of the strengths in the book. I think that's about it for me. I don't think I've talked about the income growth. The expectations are good. The technology. We're looking at the return to office, as it's called, and the return to the room. I'm currently going in 1 day a week, back to the room, more for a change of scenery than anything else. I've seen a few of my regular brokers there, you know, had lunch. I'm not quite sure. We are going to have to manage this sort of hybrid return to work. But I personally, and it is just my personal opinion, it's not Atrium's opinion, I think the queuing system in Lloyd's is dead, and the sort of open house that we had in Lloyd's, I don't think that will ever return. And I feel sad saying it, and I just don't think the room will ever be like it was back in February 2019 when they closed everything. 2020.
Do you think that will change the relevance of Lloyd's as a whole?
I don't think so, because from what I've been told by brokers and the clients that I meet on Zoom calls like this, you know, the strength of Lloyd's is the security we give and the flexibility, and the fact that they can deal direct with the underwriters. All the clients that I meet, they all love that, and they're not dealing with some sort of faceless bureaucrat, you know, and that is retained. But I just think that old way of doing it, I mean, I just can't believe I'm ever going to get my fountain pen out and sign off a slip again, when I know that slip is going to be bound electronically. It's just, why would I do that? It's just extra work.
And so literally every slip you do now going through on PPL and bound electronically?
Either of the two electronic systems, yes, PPL or Whitespace. We still get the occasional one or two where they ask us to sign it electronically using Adobe, some sort of software or something like that. But there's no physical paper.
And what was the ratio in 2019?
Well, I would say 98% paper.
Oh, so it's a massive transformation.
Huge. Yeah. And we, like I said, if you'd asked me if you could do that, I would say no, you can't. But in fact, turns out you can.
And where do you think, which are the stronger international and US areas of the market at the moment?
I think the US is actually still showing strong rate growth, but the downside, the other side of it, that we've out of all those accounts, we've had maybe 120 COVID claims notified on the property policies, and they're almost exclusively from our direct US book. You know, I haven't.
Do you expect to pay?
I don't expect to. I have to be careful what I say. I don't believe there's coverage there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're obviously investigating
the ISO form's a bit clearer, isn't it?
But they've got to prove physical damage first, and that's
exactly.
I've not seen many policies where they have been able to prove that. But by way of example, I haven't had a single claim notified on my Japanese portfolio or my South Korean portfolio. It's very much a US-centric thing, but for various reasons, actually, for various reasons. I don't think we're saying we can't do business there, but it's made us more circumspect. But now, almost without exception, every policy we have has a COVID endorsement, which clarifies that there's no cover.
And we always think, or I certainly always think of Australia as being one of the cheaper places. That's a much better market today, isn't it?
Yes, Australia is coming back very strongly.
And Canada?
Canada as well, yeah. Both showing very positive rate growth. It's really a question if you want a whole load of wood frame buildings. That's the thing. That's why the pricing is going up.
I think if that's okay, I think we'll pause the recording now and invite everyone into the room to join us.